All right, so it is put up or shut up time in terms of Republicans and debt ceiling negotiations. Kevin McCarthy offered a bill, but there's a real open question whether he can get his own caucus to go along with it. Remember, he can only lose 5 votes, well, really 4 votes. Once he loses the 5th, that's it. It's over. And he is facing challenges on both ends of the ideological spectrum. He's got moderates who are leaning no. He's got sort of like House Freedom Caucus, right-wing people who are leaning no. So we'll see how this all works out. Let's go ahead and put this up on the screen. It's from Jake Sherman, a little bit of detail about where things stand. They say the GOP whip team worked throughout the weekend to shore up the vote count on their debt limit bill. The House Freedom Caucus, that's HFC, pushing for work requirements to kick in 2024 instead of 2025. So they have some disputes with how this is all going to work out. They also want to up the hours for work requirements. GOP leadership is not interested in either. Number 2, he also says that Dems seem to be trying to figure out what McCarthy is up to. But it's quite simple. He wants a negotiation with Biden. His ultimate goal is spending reductions, work requirements, and permitting reform. They also go on to say here that House rules will take up the bill sometime today, likely around 4 p.m. Goal is to get a vote by Wednesday, but that easily could slip. Put this next piece up on the screen from NBC News. This gives a little bit of the sense of who exactly are the holdouts. They say McCarthy faces his first big test as Speaker, defusing a debt ceiling time bomb. Of course, it's a debt ceiling time bomb of his own making, but we'll put that aside. 5 Republican no votes would derail the McCarthy debt bill. Democrats will all be opposed to it. Several of the 20 hard-right conservatives who initially blocked McCarthy from winning the speakership 3 months ago have threatened to vote no this week. To give you a sense of some of the things that they're concerned about, you've got former Freedom Caucus chair Andy Biggs saying that he told the GOP whip team he's leaning no over its main provision, which is lifting the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion. You know, some of these people say they won't vote for any debt ceiling increase, which I don't know how you work with that.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Matt Gaetz has demanded, quote, more rigor on work requirements and recipients of Medicaid and other safety net programs. Victoria Spartz, another House Freedom Caucus type, went back and forth on supporting McCarthy for Speaker, said she's also undecided, arguing if her party wants to target the poor, it should also challenge the rich monopolist. Okay, fair enough. I like that one. Meanwhile, centrist or swing district Republicans like Representatives Tony Gonzalez of Texas and Nancy Mace of South Carolina also are withholding support. Mace said she is leaning no because the bill doesn't balance the budget and could harm green energy business in her state. That is, I think, a key piece here because within this bill, all of the various cuts that are going to be contemplated, there are going to be some districts that benefit from the green energy credits. I was just reading a report yesterday about how bread lines are expanding and need for food aid is actually massively increasing due to inflation across the country. And it's at this very moment that you want to cut SNAP food stamp benefits. You're going to have centrists who are concerned about that. So I don't know whether he's going to be able to pull this one off or not.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really tough. Now, as I understand it, the way that the White House and the Senate Dems are basically doing is they're holding their breath. If McCarthy can pass the bill, then he's a serious negotiator.
Yeah.
If he doesn't, all eyes are going to be in the Senate. So effectively, what I understand is that the very first bill passed by the House of Representatives was that repeal of the IRS budget increase. That's called a revenue vehicle. Revenue vehicles all have to originate in the House of Representatives because of the Constitution. That's the only revenue vehicle bill that's been sent over to the Senate. The Senate is sitting on that bill. The reason why is they can now amend that to include the debt ceiling if they want to. So basically, everyone is waiting, Chuck Schumer and McConnell. If McCarthy can pass the bill, okay, then we're not going to be using this. Otherwise, McConnell will then probably step in. They will negotiate whatever the debt ceiling is. Biden will get involved with those two. It will pass the Senate, kick to the House. Then it's a game of chicken. Does McCarthy let it come up to the floor for a vote? Do the Dems use it as a discharge petition and get it to the floor anyways and maybe get 10 Republicans to vote for them? It comes down to some really crazy high-stakes chicken negotiation. But in my opinion, that's probably the most likely. I don't think he can pass a stamp bill. What do you think? I don't see when you got Nancy Mace over here saying I don't want to cut green energy jobs because we're talking about $1 billion in subsidies to GOP districts in many cases,
right.
And then you got somebody over here says I don't want to raise the debt ceiling at all. How are you going to get 9 votes to agree to agree to those two?
And none of these people care about like the good of the Republican Party. They're looking out for their own personal interests in their own very different districts.
Yes.
So for a Matt Gaetz, it makes all the political sense in the world, and he has gone a long way. He's the reason we know his name, from being a hard line, being difficult, like causing problems for Republican leadership, taking the furthest fringe position. That is really good for him in terms of his politics and his desire to be on cable news and his desire to fundraise or whatever it is he wants to do. And if you're Nancy Mace or one of these New York Republicans who are representing Biden districts, well, guess what benefits you? You have to be able to go and say to your constituents, look, I'm not like these other hardline Republicans. I'm different. I'm reasonable. I, pushed back when they wanted me to go along with all of these cuts that would have hurt our district. So each of them looking out for their individual interests makes it very difficult. Another holdout, by the way, is George Santos, who represents one of these more moderate New York districts, and I mean also is very likely to lose because of all of the other George Santos things that we know about. But he's another one that told, I think it was the Huffington Post, that he right now is a no. I'm not sure exactly what his reasoning is, but it just shows you all of the balls that McCarthy has to juggle and all of the competing interests that it's just impossible to get them to align. The only way I think he gets this through is if the caucus really does believe that it will be sort of humiliating for Republicans as a whole and really damaging to their prospects of doing anything if they don't pass this particular bill. But again, when you have individual self-interest competing with like the good of the party, guess what's very likely to win out in the end? And that's clearly what the White House is betting on. At the same time, you do have Wall Street starting to kind of freak out a little bit. You'll recall Kevin McCarthy made what I thought was kind of a weird trip to Wall Street, gave a speech at the New York Stock Exchange, went on CNBC to try to convince them like, hey, y'all should really be on my side. And they're like, we're interested in making money, and you're holding the entire economy and market hostage. We are not on your side. Put this next piece up on the screen from Politico. They say nobody knows when it's going to happen. Wall Street wakes up to default threat. The government has until the summer to strike a deal. So there are some sort of under the radar signs that Wall Street is beginning to really get serious about this threat. They quote the chief political economist at Goldman Sachs saying, there's this view in D.C. that the market isn't freaking out enough, and that may be true to an extent, but I'm dealing almost exclusively with this issue the last few weeks, and there's actually more concern now than even back in 2011, which is the last time that this all really happened, when S&P downgraded U.S. debt during a similar standoff. It's just that nobody knows when it's going to happen or what to do about it. They also point to the shift from general nonchalance to rising concern can be seen in an obscure corner of the market, the soaring cost of insuring against exposure to U.S. debt through instruments called credit default swaps. The cost of insuring against a U.S. default rose to its highest level in over a decade after J.P. Morgan analysts said there was a non-trivial risk of at least a technical default on the government's debt. And you have a bunch of quotes in this article from various Wall Street analyst types. You had Citi CEO Jane Fraser said her bank believes it's, quote, now more likely that the U.S. will enter into a shallow recession later this year. The biggest unknown, she told analysts on the bank's recent earnings call, is how the debt ceiling plays out.
Yeah, I think this is where all eyes are. As you said, look, Wall Street doesn't care. They don't give a damn whether you increase spending or decrease spending. All they care about is, are the interest rates going to stay flat, and are you not going to screw with what's going on in the markets? And no matter which way it goes, brinksmanship and default is bad for the overall U.S. economy, which would basically crash the stock market and cause them a bunch of headaches. Once again, they literally do not care whatsoever. As long as you don't raise taxes on them, they'll be like, listen, you do whatever you want. So McCarthy's gamble was kind of foolish from the beginning. He was trying to calm markets with the idea that, listen, any brinksmanship is going to invite a massive market reaction. It doesn't matter whether they think you're a serious guy or not. Now, again, we comes back to this question. Can he pass it or not? If he can't pass it, it's going to the Senate, and then we're looking at some wild 11th hour votes in the House of Representatives, maybe till 3 in the morning or whatever, where we technically breach but don't breach. Let's all just try and avoid that if possible. But honestly, I don't know. Looking at the situation, it looks bad. It really does look bad.
I mean, and I don't need to underscore for people that the economy is already in a very precarious position, that people's wages are getting eaten up by inflation, that the Fed's continued interest rate hiking has been a real problem for ordinary people and, you know, their day-to-day life. Economic anxiety already very high. A lot of concerns about a, you know, some type of recession, deep, shallow, who knows. And so into that mix of tons of uncertainty and economic challenges, you're going to hold the whole global economy hostage to get some work requirements on SNAP and on Medicaid. Like, come on. You think the American people are going to be on your side? You think Wall Street's going to be on your side on that? Not a chance. But on the other hand, with McCarthy, I mean, this is the deal with the devil he made in order to ascend to the speakership. And so if he doesn't, this is also his speakership on the line right here. So, you know, he's doing what he told the House Freedom Caucus and the holdouts that he would do ultimately. And we'll see if he survives this. We'll see if the economy survives this. We'll see how this all works out.
Yeah, and, you know, good luck to him. I certainly think that he's going to need it.
Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.